all the employees. We want to welcome back to Happy Hour Representative Darrell, Issa, Republican from California, and Fox News radio host Alan Colmes, a proud card-carrying Democrat. Welcome, gentlemen, to Happy Hour. Congressman, let's start off with you then. You know, you guys talked about, hey, we need to do something about all this outrageous executive compensation from companies that are getting our taxpayer money. They're surviving because of us. Shouldn't get, you know, millions upon millions in bonuses. This effort by Bank of America, let's touch on that first, to raise salaries 70%, base salaries, not bonuses. Is that a stab in our back, or is that just doing business as usual?
Well, first of all, I think that, the United States has to get used to the idea that the private sector knows better generally how to run their businesses than we do. And the Congress doesn't seem to get it. The president doesn't seem to get it. Having said that, this is politically tin-eared to have this kind of a rollout without explaining it and educating, so that those in Congress who think that anyone that makes more than $170,000 must be by definition a criminal. So I think there's a balancing act here. I suspect that this is good for retention. It's probably necessary and it can be justified, but unfortunately it hasn't been, and that's what I hope we in Congress will hear soon.
Representative Issa, thanks for joining us. You know, as I look at this, and I frame it as a Republican-Democrat socialist regime thing often, but I'm being serious about that because the Republicans seem to have provided cover for this slippery slope of fascist socialism that we're running down. My question always comes back to, how do we get out? What is 6 months or 6 years? How does the government get out of these new burdens that you guys are creating?
Well, I think first of all, you have to remember that on every one of these programs, the majority of Republicans voted against them, including TARP. But having said that, enough people were there to, if you will, give cover to the Bush and now the Obama administration on this sort of socialization or nationalization. But I think the bellwether on whether or not the federal government should be part of the decision is, are we a net giver to somebody like we are with GM and Chrysler, or are we simply investors that are getting a net return, as we seem to be with Wells Fargo and Bank of America? And I think that's going to be one of the big differences. AIG, we've clearly nationalized. We've bought and paid for far more than they're worth. GM and Chrysler, certainly Chrysler, it looks like we're already writing off the first tranche of money. If Fiat buys them, they buy them free of what we already gave them. So that's a good example of where we own them, they don't own us. But I think Bank of America is a different story. They appear to be turning a profit. They appear to be a relatively well-run company going forward, and they have to retain their good people.
All right, Alan, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Okay. That the Obama administration is on this political power grab, a political capital grab. Well, let's talk about it. The representative just said, well, he's got a problem with government being owners of companies.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate that.
We own AIG. We're owning GM. We're about to own Chrysler as well. We're owning a lot of things.
You're making it a left-right thing when you had George W. Bush come in and take over the banks. Why are you isolating it to what a Democratic president's doing? And, Congressman, with all due respect, you say the private sector always knows best. Isn't it the greed in the private sector which got us into this problem in the first place? And, Cody, you're going and conflating socialism and fascism, using all those isms together as if they're all the same thing. They're not.
See, you guys are all wrong. You, except for me.
Only Rebecca.
Unfortunately, we can all talk about who got us into this. It's very clear that a spiraling up cost of homes led by easy money got us into this. We can then debate about. We can then debate, Alan, about who insisted that we provide loans at virtually no money down to people who had no record of being able to pay it. But long before that, we've got to deal with the question of how do we get out of running organizations we don't know how to run.
Before we even get to that, though, Congressman, we haven't talked about what they plan to do tomorrow, which is giving this power to the Treasury Secretary. Let's not even get into how to get out, because we're still in. We're still getting in.
I'm going to vote no, so the but unfortunately, are the others.
Let me ask you the question there and here. I mean, we're giving billions of dollars to all these corporations. Shouldn't we taxpayers have some say in how they're doing their business, i.e. how much they pay their employees? Sure, let the market determine what they want, but when you're taking taxpayer dollars, it comes with strings attached. You want to just give them money with no strings attached, Congressman?
Well, you know, your point is very good and your question is excellent. I'll give you the answer that we should be doing, and that is Congress is not the appropriate board of directors to look after the people's money in this case. Neither is the president. If we want to appoint blue ribbon boards to oversee businesses, then we need to put people who are knowledgeable of those businesses onto those boards. It is very appropriate for us to put people that know what they're doing onto boards. We've made a huge investment, but let's understand, President Obama guaranteed automobile warranties yesterday. That's pretty much outside of his history or knowledge, and that's exactly where Congress and the president are going wrong. We should not be running these companies or guaranteeing them. We should be hiring people to act fairly on our behalf. And that's why I've called for a 9/11 type commission to look over these funds, because if we don't look over these funds with independent, knowledgeable people, you and I and Alan Colmes are going to be having this argument when another $700 billion is gone.
Alan, as we look at that, I mean, this is just it. It's the premise itself. We've started the welfare, corporate welfare culture that we live in now. We've either got to continue to over-regulate and go in and kick out executives because it's all political. But it is all political. There's no profit.
Rebecca was exactly right in the way she phrased the question to Congressman Issa, which is that, you know, if there's going to be taxpayer dollars, wouldn't taxpayers be upset? Let's say it was Republican.
So we've got to stop the taxpayer dollars going into corporations.
The fact is, we've already done that. That ship has sailed.
No,
taxpayer
stop
dollars
now.
are going there, and then if a Republican administration did that, rather if you'd have the Republicans saying, well, you got to have some accountability. What the Democrats are doing, where's the accountability? You've got to have some ability to say, here's where we are drawing the boundaries, and those boundaries have to be set by the people who give you the money. That's the government and the taxpayers. Can we just get the congressman to address that? I mean, frankly, it seems like there's a power grab and a political capital grab going from both sides of the aisle right now, and they're using our taxpayer dollar as the leverage and the money to buy it. Am I wrong?
Right. You hit the nail on the head. It's too easy for members of Congress on both sides of the aisle or this administration to start running these companies to show they could do a better job. The truth is, just as banks should not run companies just because they loan money to companies, and yet they have a right to say, let's have oversight to protect our money, we need to take the same attitude, which is we need to have legitimate oversight, but if there's going to be intervention in the running of companies, we'd better hire the right people that understand those particular industries. Right now, we're not doing that, and that's exactly why when President Obama tells me to trust in the warranty of a car company, I begin to worry about who's running those car companies, the president or somebody who spent 35 years learning how to make automobiles.
Having no accountability and no regulation for years is what led to this. Actually having some accountability and some structure here.
Alan, we've had you for years.
What happened
All right, Congressman Issa, we're going to have you back, and we'll talk about the chief restructuring czar that they're going to hire and see if that addresses your concerns. And also maybe they need a chief banking restructuring czar. Congressman Darrell Issa, Republican from California. Thank you,
Thanks, Alan. Good